Good morning and welcome to the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Morning Forum. I am Mary Johnson. I'm a facilitator along with Ms. Laura McClellan. Sitting next to me, we have Carmenia Ivory Canty, Jackie Walton Edwards, Nathalie McElrath, who is our timekeeper. Where's Nathalie? There she is. Right there. She's going to be keeping the time. We have Winston Robinson. We have Steve Johnston in the back. He's the one that keeps our website up. And good morning. And we have Sarita Sherwood, our chaplain. Okay, so Ms. Michelle, you want to start with today's prayer? Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Would you bow your heads and let's pray together? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for a time of stillness. We thank you that we are realizing that we're relinquishing all activities of the day. Thank you for allowing us and our minds to open to learn. Thank you, Father, for our health and strength. We ask you today to keep us astonished at all the blessings that you created in our lives, your generosity, your love and care for us. We ask today that you remember all of our children, every place. Bless this crazy world of ours. Bless our United States, our state. Bless our county, our city, our neighborhoods, our homes. Bless this forum today. And remember Sarah Stevenson. It's in your son Jesus' name I pray. Let's say together. Amen.
Yes. Okay, if we have any additional candidates to come in, they can have a seat up at the front. Our forum runs from 8:30 until 9:45. At that time, we'll take announcements from the audience. Announcements can also be sent to Steve at sjohnston@tuesdayforumcharlotte.org. Do we have any first timers here? Do we have anyone here for the first time? Okay, could you just stand and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sarah Basinger, and I'm part of the League of Women Voters and on the education committee, and very interested in, and we really appreciate you posting this.
Thank you,
everyone.
And come back.
Thank you.
Okay, our guests today are the District 2, 4, and 6 candidates. Mr. Sean Strain with District 6 is on military duty this week, so he will not be with us. And we understand that. But for District 2, we have Juan Reek Hall. I'm not sure if he's here. I don't think he's here. Okay, we have Monty Witherspoon. And you just kind of hold your hand up so you know who you are. Thelma Bias Bailey. For District 4, we have Carol Sawyer. We have, and she's an incumbent. Oh, also, Thelma is an incumbent also. Carol Sawyer is an incumbent. We have Stephanie Sneed. Do we have Clara Witherspoon?
You do,
There
right
she
here.
is. Are you two related?
No, we are
Not
not.
really. Okay. I know that was going to be a question. I knew that was going to be a question. So I said, let me get this out of the way early. Okay, in District 6, we have Summer Nunn. Not here. Okay, and Michael Watson is here. Thank you very much. What we're going to do, following their presentations, we're going to take questions from the audience. But you must raise your hand. This is for the first time. You raise your hand, and we'll call on you in the order that you raise your hand. Okay? And because we have a large group up here this morning, what we're going to do is we're going to give them 1 minute to introduce themselves, and then you're going to have 30 seconds to ask your question. Okay, that way we can get more in a short period of time. Yes.
We were giving them 2 minutes to introduce themselves later.
I know, but we have so many, we're gonna do 1 minute.
Okay.
1 minute, they're used to 1 minute, right? Okay, you want to say a minute and a half? A minute and a half? Oh, no, that's right. How many people we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. That's 14 minutes. Okay, so we'll give you 2 minutes. And if you don't need the whole 2 minutes, that's fine. We'll give you 2 minutes to say what you need to say about yourself. And then, we're gonna give you 30 seconds to ask a question, because we don't need a lot of commentary, okay?
I have 2 times, but I hold up this, you have 30 seconds. So,
Okay.
then,
So we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna start on the end with Stephanie Sneed.
can you hear me? You don't have to use that mic. Then we can
You don't have to use mics. We have their mics up here, so you really don't have to, but you can.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Sneed, and I'm a candidate for Board of Education District 4. I'll start today just as I begin every time that I address the Board of Education, which has at least been a dozen times. We are in a state of emergency here in Charlotte, and that emergency is the #1 issue that no one is paying attention to, which is the unacceptable performance outcomes of CMS students, particularly those students that look like me. The number of low-performing schools has increased from 42 to 50, and again, astonishingly, approximately 70% of Black third graders are not proficient in reading. It is time for a fresh perspective from a proven and trusted leader in the community. I'm an employment attorney, former trial attorney for Child Protective Services. I serve on the CMS Board Oversight Committee. I am a CMS volunteer, a PTA member. I'm the immediate past chair of the Black Political Caucus. But the most important thing is that I am a parent of a student that was in the 3rd grade last year. And I am a mother of a daughter who's at a low-performing school. I want something different and extraordinary for my children and all of our students in Charlotte-Mecklenburg. The shape of a change is dependent upon it. The shape of the city is dependent upon this change.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Michael Watson. I am running for the Board of Education District 6. I have been a resident of the Charlotte area for now 7 years, and in that 7 years, I've served various ways throughout CMS. I have been a president of PTA at J.M. Robinson Middle School. I served as a vice president of the PTA at Polo Ridge Elementary, in addition to being on the school leadership teams of both of those schools for the past 3 years. I also now serve on the PTA of Ardrey Kell. But in addition to that, at the collegiate level, I serve on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Board for the College of Engineering at the University of Missouri. And, I just want to make a couple points known that, education is serious. That's why I'm here. I have devoted a considerable amount of time and resources into ensuring that we have great outcomes for our children. And I believe we need a new perspective on the Board of Education. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Monty Witherspoon. I'm a candidate for School Board District 2. I'm a native of Charlotte, 1998 graduate of Olympic High School. I'm married with 2 boys that keep me up all night. Running for school board because this is a watershed moment. And what we do in this election will impact students, especially students of color, for the next 15 to 20 years. According to the Department of Instruction, North Carolina Department of Instruction, we've gone from 42 to 50 low-performing schools in Charlotte-Mecklenburg. 42 to 50. 12 of those are in District 2. Not only that, but there are 13 recurring low-performing schools in District 2, which means that those schools were on the low-performing list 2 out of the past 3 years. We got a tremendous amount of work to do, and I'm asking for your support as we move towards quality education for all students. I'm Reverend Dr. Monty Witherspoon, candidate for School Board District 2.
Good morning. I'm Thelma Byers Bailey. I've been representing District 2 on the school board for the last 9 years. I have had the pleasure of serving as the vice chair of the school board for the last 3 years. I'm a native Charlotte.
Speak up, Thelma? I don't think the mic is on.
Oh, well, it's not, I,
Not up.
oh,
Mics are going in
Okay.
and out.
is it on now? Good.
That's better.
I've lived in District 2 all the time that I've lived in Charlotte. I've always lived in District 2 right on Baby Sport Road. I'm from the community. I've been president of my neighborhood association for the past 15 years. And I sought a seat on the school board because of what I saw the school board doing to my neighborhood school. But I've been on the school board I came on the school board regarding facilities because I felt the school board needed some help making better fiscal decisions. But I made a difference. I was the moving catalyst for getting West Charlotte on the bond for a new school rather than just some improvements. I also added Bruns Avenue to the school bond. And that was no easy trip. It took me 3 votes to get, because you can't do anything on a school board unless you get 5 votes. So I had to lobby and I had to educate people as to why those were better decisions. I have some other things on the bond that's coming up that I want to get done. But the most important thing that we do is educate kids. And I've gone to a lot of conferences and I've learned a lot of things. And what I came back from one of the conferences was this idea of student outcomes focused governance. The things that we came back and put into place from that conference is why Allenbrook went from being a failing school for years. No matter who we put in that school, it was a failing school. That school is now a C. We had other schools. Thank you.
Is it okay if I drop this mask while I speak?
Yes.
Good morning. My name is Clara Witherspoon, and I am running for school board, District 4. I want to tell you a little bit why I decided to run. I grew up in Charlotte. I also attended Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system. I attended school during the time of segregated schools, integration, and busing. And so not only that, I have worked in CMS. I worked in CMS as a teacher assistant when I got out of college many, many years ago. And also as a school counselor. I recently retired January 2022. I worked on the district level as a multi-tier system of support specialist. And in that role, what I had an opportunity to do, but let me go back a little bit. In that role, prior to that role, I worked as Garringer's High School's MTSS coordinator. And then I moved to the district as an MTSS specialist. And in that role, what I did, I supported schools in looking at their entire framework to determine what changes needed to happen to successfully educate all children. And so I come with the experience, but I also come with the passion. When I talk about working in this city, I've worked in this city all of my adult life. I worked as a Head Start social worker. I have walked these communities from one end to the next, recruiting families to get those kids into Head Start. I am committed to this city. My children grew up in Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system as well. My grandkids are there now. My husband retired from the Charlotte Fire Department. He's now an educator. I am passionate about this work.
Good morning. I'm Carol Sawyer, and I serve as the District 4 representative on the CMS Board of Education, and I'm running for a second term. I've been an education advocate for decades. When I was a kid, I went to school board meetings with my mom. Back then, my school district charged textbook rental fees. My mom successfully fought those fees because she saw families struggling to pay and the shame they felt when they couldn't. I learned from my mom the power of advocacy and the importance of equity. My election to the school board in 2017 seems like a lifetime ago. In those pre-COVID days, I successfully championed a new equity policy. I spent months drafting that policy in collaboration with education advocates. I worked to reestablish a community equity committee, which was no easy feat. Some members opposed its creation, but I persisted because I was committed to having
community members engaging with our board on our equity work. The board has already changed our discipline policy because of the work of that committee. Since COVID, the board has had to make many difficult decisions. Through it all, I've listened to my constituents and tried to represent the values of District 4. As a child, I learned that policy had the power to change lives. Now, as policy committee chair, I'm working with my colleagues to ensure that our CMS policies reflect the visions and values of our community. It's important work that will make our system stronger, more accountable, and more equitable. And I'd be honored to serve again as the District 4 representative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our first question is coming from Winston. You're gonna.
I mean, the rules are the rules.
Oh, no, Tommy, go ahead, Tommy. Tommy, then Winston. Then who else?
Well, my question for the school board is like, it's a new time now, and like Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system, I think, emphasize education on the college level. And I said, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Board of Education emphasized college as a platform where in the society, a mechanic makes more than a teacher. And why aren't we training out, why we don't have more facilities to train kids to be mechanics, plumbers, trade, instead of the emphasis being on college education, because, college teachers don't make no money.
Does it matter who responds? Does it matter who responds first?
Direct for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to speak to that. Within the district, we have
Wait a minute. You all have 1 minute to
answer that question. Okay.
1 minute.
Within CMS, we have CTE pathways. And I think what we need to do is a better job of marketing those pathways. My daughter went to Philip O'Berry back some time ago. And when Philip O'Berry, it was supposed to be a technology school. So we don't do a great job, in my personal opinion, of marketing those plans. But there are great CTE programs. My husband actually works in a CTE program. He's a CTE teacher. But we have great pathways. We just need to do a better job of marketing.
Okay, thank you.
I'd also like to answer that. As she said, we have CTE pathways, and the students have to sign up for that pathway. And some of them sign up for those pathways in middle school, but they earn credits towards those. Once they pick a pathway and go through the entire pathway, they get a certification on their high school diploma, which tells the community they are market ready. They are ready to go to work now. And some of the companies that work with our students hire them and then send them to college if that's what they want to do. Olympic is a beautiful example of what a CTE program can be, because they went out and got the manufacturing companies to come in and put the machines in the school so that they can learn how to operate the machines while they're in school, high school, so that when they come to work for that company, I think it's Bosch Retshaw, I would say that. I always get that name confused. But that's the students there go to work immediately. They've already seen that machine. They already know how to operate that machine. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to, there's an amazing program that CMS, I think, is the only district in the country that has, which is in our construction contracts, in our vendor contracts. Keitha Lloyd, who's our diversity and inclusion specialist, ensure that in our contract, there's a line in there that says contractors will work with our students. So they craft programs to do internships, apprenticeships, to come to job fairs. So we are involving our contractors with our students. And one of the benefits of that is with our minority-owned businesses, that our students can see people like them in the field. At West Charlotte yesterday, the HVAC installer was a Black-owned business, and they took on a student from West Charlotte 2 years ago who is now working for the company and was involved in installing the HVAC system at the new West Charlotte High School. So there are programs that we are supporting. Thank you.
So can I address that? So one thing, I'm a founding member and project lead for Charlotte Community Think Tank, which used to be the Westside Education Think Tank. So in that process, I worked with a particular steel manufacturer that paired CMS students with a steel employment job. So that program has been going on 3 years. Those students are, one is on track to be a supervisor. They pay for CPCC. So it is beyond, so it needs to be looked beyond CMS, these partnerships. And that has been a success. Those students make at least $25 an hour and have a pathway for worldwide. If they told those students if they want to go work in Mexico, if they want to go work in Europe, it's like those are international jobs. So that's one thing. So it takes community partnerships. It has to be beyond CMS. The second thing that I want to lift up that's more important is those students that came on board had to take an assessment test. So if the kids can't read, if they can't do math, it doesn't matter what job, whether it's a trade job or not, they have to be able to do that. I just want to give you one thing. East Meck High School, Math 1 students, 75% that take Math 1 are not proficient in math.
Anyone else want to address that?
I was just going to say also, I think it's important not only to have these programs, I think we have to also communicate it effectively and target students that need it the most. When I graduated high school, which I fell third in 7th grade, went to college, took remedial math and English. I was the only one that I grew up with that graduated from my neighborhood. You know what they're doing now? One of them makes more money than me, HVAC, mechanic. It took 10, 15 years for them to find a career path. And so if we can start early and target students that need, not just have the programs, but target students that need them the most, I think we'll be more effective.
I want to add one more thing to that. On the elementary level, can I speak again? I can't. Okay.
Well, no, not, we got so many, we're gonna
Okay.
go to the next question. I think it's Winston.
Good morning. So we all know standardized tests are inherently biased. And there's a push to kind of find different ways or alternative ways to rank schools that won't rely as heavily on standardized tests, which I have appreciation for. However, once kids leave CMS, they will be governed by the same standardized test to get into a career or make a proficient income. So I wanted to know, as a policy-making board, if elected or re-elected, what will you do to ensure that our kids will know how to approach standardized tests?
I think,
You can start.
sure. Like you said, a test, it's like, a poster. They go out and they sample a few folks and try to get an idea of the general attitudes and opinions of folks. That's how tests are. They don't tell you everything about a student. They just give you an idea and insight into the domain of a student's total self and what they've attained and learned. I think what we have to do is, because you said it best, everything I've encountered in my life, everything I've done, there's been a test. And I think it's important for us to teach students how to take tests. And because it's not only going to affect their outcomes in CMS, but it's going to affect their outcomes for the rest of their lives. So we have to teach them how to take tests.
It's okay. All right. When I think about standardized tests, you're right, absolutely. It's a process, and when you start on the elementary level, if you go on to college, you're gonna have another. You have to take the SAT and all those standardized tests. However, in order for children to really be able to take any test, they need to know how to read. They need to know they need to know how to comprehend what they read. To me, that's the beginning. So we talk about all the techniques we use, like chunking and all those systems of teaching kids how to take a test. That's a big issue for me. I've worked in the school building. I've proctored for exams. I've saw kids circling, chunking, all these strategies that we teach kids. And at the end of the day, they still can't read. We have got to do a better job going back to elementary, because that's where the problem is. Because what happens, it perpetuates. We don't get it in elementary school and learn how to read by 3rd grade. We've got an issue. You get on over to high school, I've seen that too. You've got 9th graders who cannot read on the 9th grade level. That's where we got to start first.
I want us to stop a minute. Winston, could you repeat your question?
So we know standardized tests, we utilize that to rate schools and performance of students, and we know they're inherently biased. However, that's what governs the greater world. If you want to go in any career path, there's a test that you will have to take. So how do we prepare our kids to take a test that they will need way beyond school?
Okay, so the question is, how do we prepare students to, I think we all agree with the statement, but how do we prepare the students?
And again, I'm going to say also with the emphasis on Black children.
Okay, Ms. Sawyer.
So I think, first of all, students in elementary are taught strategies in test taking. In terms of the state mandated tests, there are, the state grading system is not a reflection of what's happening at the individual school level, and it's certainly not at the individual child level. Our state proficiency score correlates nearly 100% with the socioeconomic status of the students in the school. The growth scores have provide a snapshot of what's going on. I mean, we have schools that they may be low proficiency, but are making tremendous growth. And so we need to look in detail at the scores and use the data from those tests to inform instruction, to inform strategies that we need to use in the schools, and use it as a tool, not a weapon to shame and blame teachers and students. Because I think that's how we need to approach those tests.
I just like to lift up one thing that hampers all of our students when they come to school. If they have not had a quality preschool education or exposure, because it's not supposed to be an educational, it's supposed to be something that's fun for the students. But if they haven't had that opportunity, if they've been sitting at home watching TV until they're 5 years old, and then they come to school, they're not prepared to learn. They're not prepared. They may not be prepared to learn, depending on what they were watching. But too often we have kids coming into preschool, into kindergarten, who are not ready to learn. And that means the teacher has to be a superhero to be able to take that child from knowing no shapes, no colors, no nothing, and by first grade, have that child ready to read in first grade. And too often that's not happening in our schools. And that's why our students by the third grade still don't know how to learn. The teacher has been trying to teach what they should have been exposed to in preschool, in kindergarten. And when they're in kindergarten, their letters and colors, they're starting from a deficit.
Yeah, so you said it best, that standardized testing is biased. And what we have to recognize is inherently inequities exist. Like every microcosm of society, there's inequity. So I think the issue with CMS is there's been a governance model that didn't allow for specialized solutions at each of our schools. It's called a multi-tier governance model. And what it allows for is strategic staffing, different support systems for different schools, so that we're not approaching everything with a one-size-fits-all. I think that's a solution that we need to look at moving forward. Is how do we address? Let's look at growth before we try to solve for the whole inequity pie. Right? We need to make incremental growth towards our goals, and we need to understand if our educational framework is leading to the policy and the outcomes that we want. So
I'll say one thing to piggyback off of that. One, I mean, yes, a test doesn't paint the entire picture, right? But it does provide some benchmarks of where students are. I mean, that's the reality of it. The reality of it is much like you said, students will have to take tests to get certified as a plumber, HVAC, mechanic, whatever you want to go into law school. I had to take a inherently biased test to pass the New York bar. But the thing that's more disturbing to me that I keep hearing as themes is testing and low socioeconomic children. But I'm going to say this to you. I'm going to say this in math, in grades in math 1 in 2021, district-wide, 76% of students that are not economically disadvantaged are not proficient. So we have to change this narrative that it's poor children. but poor children can learn also, but we're not just talking about poor children.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I just also wanted,
Let's go
I
to
did.
this question.
I did. It was very important though. It was very important.
If it's a question, everybody has one chance to speak to it. I know this is just a snapshot, really, of you all. So, I know it's not fair, but we're gonna do it that way. Also, I want to say that I have been inundated with people sending me text questions, people who are watching us virtually, because we have a virtual audience. So I'm going to be jumping in to ask a question here or there from the text that I'm getting. So who was next on there? Was it Jackie? Oh, Sarita and then Jackie. Sarita and then me and then Jackie.
My question is directed specifically to Mr. Watson. Yes. Did I say your last name correctly?
Yes.
You mentioned that you were a member of a site leadership team.
Yes.
To what extent, if you were elected, will you promote site leadership teams in schools?
Yeah, so I believe that being a part of a site leadership team was really one of the most enriching experiences I had, because I was able to understand at the specific school level the needs, the issues from the students to the teachers to the administration. It's a great experience to really understand the workings of a school, a site. Now, if I'm elected, I'll be representing a district, but I would push, a lot for that, because I really got a lot of experience with that. Thank you.
Okay, Jackie, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm trying to read this. Go ahead, Jackie. Oh, is Nico before Jackie?
Yeah, Jackie. Yeah. Nico is after.
Yeah, you're after Jackie.
Good morning. Can I have someone answer the question what MTSS is? But my question is,
Yes.
I know that we talk about CTE. I'm more concerned about the construction trades, heating, cooling, electrical, plumbing, those trades that are inflation proof. If the economy's good, you're gonna need them. If it's bad, you're gonna need them. If it's new construction, you're gonna need them. If it's existing housing, you're gonna need them. How will you advocate for those construction trades? And we handful, I heard y'all give the example, but then those that are inflation-proof construction trades, how will you advocate for those in the system?
Jay, can I add automotive to that?
Automotive.
Can I add automotive? If you're taking your car to get a big let's add automotive.
Trade.
Okay.
So, Sarah, what is MTSS?
Yeah, I'm dying to talk about it.
Tell us what it is.
MTSS is the framework to improve schools. It is
What's it stand for?
multi-tiered system of support. Multi-tiered system of support. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3.
While we at it, what does CTE stand for as well?
Career and technical education.
This so you.
So we've touched on construction trades. CMS has a partnership with Goodwill at the Rock. So we do have that one spot. We also have a partnership with CPCC, because some of the construction trades, the equipment and stuff resides at CPCC. So our students go to CPCC free of charge from CMS to take those classes. It's about building apprenticeships. It's about building internships. And the other challenge, frankly, is finding instructors. I was talking to Tommy about this earlier. It's pretty hard to get an HVAC tech to come and teach in CMS when they can top out after 25 years at about $50,000 after teaching in CMS for 25 years versus making 3 times that in their field. So we have some structural problems that we have to face if we really are committed to having CTE teachers in our schools.
I wanted to just add something to that. I heard Carol say there's a challenge with instructors. I think this is a great opportunity for the district to be more creative and collaborative, working with community. There's a lot of businesses that we could think about reaching out to and collaborate. Collaboration is huge for our community. We need to have every stakeholder use every opportunity to reach out to business partners to build and to empower our kids. So collaboration, community collaboration is huge.
And talking about that automotive, we had a student at Harding University High School to go through the automotive program and went straight to the manufacturer to get a job after from high school. So we do have CTE courses in those areas.
Just to piggyback on the need for collaboration, I would say, just as a resident, that I don't feel CMS has done a good job promoting it. I think that's our opportunity. I'm a small business owner myself. I would volunteer time if I had to, but I haven't been approached or been aware of any program. So I think that might be the loophole is, awareness.
So just one thing, hugely, I've already said that I personally initiated a project with connecting students with a trade, the steel industry. That is that's one of those everlasting industries because every building needs steel, your house has steel, everything. So the one thing that I want to caution us on is that, again, like with these partnerships with CPCC, which is important, and they have a great thing that they have with, moving it to advancement, like we're working on Teslas, which is awesome. But what CPCC is finding, majority of students that come there from CMS, they're not prepared. They have to take remedial classes. We got to turn this thing around to even to get them to be prepared to be at CCC to work on those type of trades.
Anyone else want to address that who has not spoken? Okay, I have a question. This is one that has come in by text, and this is for the incumbents. In 5 years, Black students lost 57%, and last year they lost 20%. This was before the pandemic, 5 years ago. Why should we vote for you if Black students are losing year to year?
Percent. Yeah, I don't know what that percent refers to.
50%, it says in 5 years, in reading. Okay. I was trying to summarize this that they wrote. But in reading, in the 5 years, Black students lost 57%, and last year they lost 20%. Why should we vote for you if Black students are losing year to year? And then the person went on to say what the scores were 2016, 2017, they were 33%, 21, 22, 14% were college and career ready. And 2020 to 2021 testing revealed there was 17.9% of Black third graders for college and career ready.
So if I would encourage folks who want to take a deep dive into the data that she's talking about to watch our last board meeting, because we had a progress monitoring report. Our staff presented year-over-year data on reading of Black and Hispanic students over time, and looking at the strategies going forward and what remediation was in place. It's a little problematic to compare year-over-year data, as in the students got worse, because frankly, it's a different set of students. So the students in this last year were profoundly impacted by the pandemic. So they had interrupted learning in first and second grade. So yes, we have a lot of work to do to get those kids back to where they need to be. And we have strategies for doing that. We have so we have a couple of schools that actually made gains during that time, a couple of Title I schools that made gains, Bearwick Elementary and Paw Creek. And if you look at the report on board docs, you'll see the strategies that they employed to grow those kids. So it can be done, and we are doing it.
And I would like to echo what Carol said, because you can't get good academic scores until you get some exceed growth for kids who are behind. If you just teach enough to get them from 1 year's worth of growth, all you did was you just did your job. You were there to teach them for 1 year, and you taught them for 1 year, and they grew for 1 year. We're not going to catch up until we exceed growth by double digits, and we have had schools to do that. That's why Allenbrook went from an F to a C in just a 2-year period, because that principal put in place academic things in that school that the students grew double digits, and that's why the school went from an F to a C. And that's not the only school that did that. Coolwood had the highest growth rate of any school in North Carolina, except for one charter school or private school, I believe. So we have teachers out there and schools and principals that are doing it, but it's just not gonna happen next year. It's gonna take a year or two, at least.
Yeah, sure, it's a different set of students, but it's the same subgroup of students who are failing year after year. It's Black students. So you have this continual pipeline of Black students. You can't justify that. At University Park, which is in District 2, 90.7% of third graders are not proficient in reading.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm gonna move on. And this is another one that came in. We were gonna get back to the audience. Someone sent one about an aviation component at EE-Waddell. I'm not sure if anybody knows about that, an aviation component. Sorry.
That is, so we are, staff is looking at building an aviation magnet at EE-Waddell. In the meantime, there's an aviation school on Independence Boulevard that will be partnering with, I believe, Butler, Garinger, and East Meck in the coming years. And students from CMS will be able to take classes for free at the Aviation Academy there. So they're building that partnership for the students that are in proximity of that school.
And that's a very expensive program, so that's a real opportunity for our students to be able to do that.
Will they be paired with, will they get jobs at American Airlines or something? That's the goal.
Well, they would, I think the students can take 4 classes at the aviation school, and then they would go to that aviation school for the rest of the curriculum. Just during their junior and senior year, they would be able to take 4 classes.
You want to speak to that?
Well, I wanted to make a statement, and I hate to keep going back this. No, I don't hate to keep going back to this. I think these programs are wonderful. The aviation program they're going to be putting at EE-Waddell. But I have to go back and say, a lot of our kids who are brown and Black and yellow kids will not be able to take opportunities for those if they're not taught to read. I can't stop talking about that. Our kids, we have got to start teaching our kids reading comprehension. We have got to.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, who's next? Miko.
My question is to Ms. Sawyer. So I heard the response to the county budget danced around. My thing is, being the
I'm gonna let you take your mask down for a minute.
Okay. I heard the response that you gave. It was kind of dance around. It was kind of shifting it more or less toward the board. But I want to know for you, as the current representative, what have you done as a part of your platform to make sure Black and brown kids have not been underserved when you address mental health, substance abuse, homelessness, whatever issues they might be having at home from agency community support workers? What Black or brown groups that you yourself connected with or collaborated with? I'm not talking about these Goodwills. Goodwills is irrelevant. They're not in the community when a lot of people are getting underserved or kids who, they can't read, tutoring and things. What have you done?
The board's role is one of government.
Not the board, I'm talking about you.
Okay. As a board member.
I'm talking about your platform.
Okay, wait a minute, Miko. She's answering your
question. Go ahead.
And these people represent the Board of Education. Yes, thank you.
We know.
As an individual, I've tutored in schools in my part of town at Almar Road Elementary. So I've done individual work, but as a board member, I have worked to strengthen our equity policy and formed a community equity committee, which folks are, please apply to participate. to have oversight of our district's equity issues and to help us craft policy to make it better. So we've changed our disciplinary policy because of the work of the equity committee, the community committee, which directly impacted Black and brown students. So that's one. In terms of our goals that the board set and is working on, they are specifically targeted at Black and Hispanic students. And that's because we are holding the superintendent and he is holding the staff accountable for reaching those goals. So our goals were very intentionally set on the populations and the areas that needed the most support. So we are driving the budget and the superintendent and the accountability of staff toward meeting the goals of improving Black and brown student performance.
Anybody else want to speak to that?
I did.
Specifically on.
Oh, she on the answer.
Get along. Kent.
Hello, everyone, and I'm going to apologize in advance because I have to run a homicide trial starting. As a mother of a CMS student, I want to say three things. I don't know how long I have, just hold up time. Number one, I came here last time and talked about vocational technical, and everything everyone said is great, but it's still not the model that I grew up with that I would strongly suggest. And what that is that you have CMS have anchor schools in each side of town, and CMS be responsible for busing children to those schools. I took math, science, social studies, and English at my home school. Then a yellow bus picked me and other kids on the west side of Detroit up and took us to A. Philip Randolph Vocational Technical School. And by the time you graduated, you were a journeyman, electrician, plumber, carpenter. About time already? Oh my gosh. What are you going to do about CMS disciplinary policy? My 5-year-old was labeled as aggressive and defiant at 5 years old. And this year, the principal decided to try and call me because my child was not following directions, which said to me they don't have tools in the toolbox to know how to deal with a 6-year-old. And if you're talking about sending 6-year-olds at home with their parents now, how are they going to learn to read? And my child also received MTSS service, but no school speech therapy for the entire year last year, although I made them let them know that he needed speech the entire year. And I've got to go, but I will be listening. Okay.
Right there. I'm not gonna break that down. But sign it on my phone.
Yeah, you know, the statement that she made that her student received MTSS services. MTSS is not a service. MTSS is a framework. So that needs to be clarified. And I think that's an issue for lots of our people, even in our buildings, not clearly understanding what MTSS is, multi-tier system. It is a framework. It is everything you do inside a school building. So it's not a thing. It's not a program. It's a framework. And everything in that, when you walk in that building, everything you do to serve children, that is the framework. And so if you're doing it well, and data should be the driving point, you should be able to look at that data and say, how is this school functioning? Is this school doing what it needs to do to serve all kids? That data will show you. MTSS is a framework. So I want to just kind of advocate for that.
I mean, it's a framework, but it still requires intervention with parents. Like there's a specific policy that says what's supposed to happen in tier 2 and tier 3.
There's no policy.
It includes that parents are supposed to be notified, what type of support the parents are supposed, communication is supposed to happen with the parent. But still, we keep talking about this MTSS, but only 3.2% of parents have been engaged in this process. So, and I know that there are many more students that are, if you are not proficient, all of these not proficient students should be engaged in this MTSS process, which is not happening.
Can't speak to it.
Anyone else want to speak to it?
I just want to say we need to see how many African American students are eligible at CMS for MTSS. Exactly. We need to identify them. Yeah.
I hear all these terms that are incorrect.
And welcome back. You haven't been. He's one of our.
It's not a developer.
Good. I want to make everyone proud. Just one up. 4 digits or 5 letters? 5 letters for never. What year do you believe I will come to any CMS meeting? I will not hear about the word failing school. In my opinion, there is not one reason why any school should fail in CMS. There is not one. I mean, being poor is the greatest motivation to succeed. So I just don't see. So each one of you tell me what year do you believe? Just a number or never. That's a number that you believe I will come to any CMS meeting. I will not hear about the word failing school.
Oh, I just predict that. What year? That's all.
What year?
What year?
What year will it be when he no longer hears low failing school? Year is that going to occur?
Just go ahead. Do you have an idea?
No, because we are, the state sets, the state decides what a failing school is, and our state kind of stacks the deck. I can't predict. The state changes those standards every year.
So it means never.
Yeah, I mean, if we have to go by this, I think, first of all, I don't believe we have failing schools. There are schools that have state test scores that are labeled as failing, but we have educators in those schools that are working with students every single day and trying to move them forward.
Okay, anybody else want to respond to that?
Yeah. I'd like to respond, but I'd like to give a real response. So I think at the end of the day, until meaningful change takes place, until we get a superintendent in place who can lead a vision of the community to bring our students up to where they need to be, you won't have you will have schools that are failing until that time takes place. But this is a serious time, right? You have an opportunity right now to form the next 4 years as a board, and additionally form the next 5 to 10 years for a superintendent. So, I mean, it's a serious question, so I really want to give it some real answers.
And I want to add that because I'm a huge believer in multi-tiered system of support framework. And I think once we implement that framework and support our staff inside our buildings on how to implement it, and CMS is moving in a better direction with that. That is going to be, because that's where you're talking about interventions, you're talking about preventions, you're talking about all those services that kids need. When we put that system in place the way it needs to be put in place, I won't say system, that framework, then we'll start seeing our schools moving, changing the trajectory, moving up where we want them to be. But we've got to implement the framework. And I'd love to talk to you more about that individual. It's an awesome system. We just need to do the work.
We're going to move on. Tommy?
Yeah, do CMS try new approaches? Do the board try new approaches? I remember I was in the Army during the Vietnam War. They had a problem with soldiers learning how to read. And so what they did, they found out the soldiers read comic books. And so the Army started furnishing soldiers comic books, and they brought up the reading level of soldiers in the Army. So do CMS use new techniques, or do they stick to the old technique of trying to teach minority students or black students how to read?
I'm going to let just the two board members answer that too.
Okay, I'd like to say yes, CMS does do things different, does make changes. When I went to the inaugural class with Council of Great City Schools and learned about student outcome focused governance work, I brought that back to CMS, and our board adopted it unanimously, immediately, went into the training. And that's why we have these, every month, we go through this process of finding out where the students, have they made any progress? That tells us what our students know and are able to do. And if they aren't making any progress, then the superintendent is put on the hot seat. Well, what are you doing to make things better? What are you doing to get the students learning more? Get more of them reading, get more of them doing ninth grade math. We have those goals that we restructured our strategic plan so that the superintendent and the staff know exactly what the board expects. That's a change. That was not something we were doing before, and that's why we were getting stagnant levels of going down.
So CMS has made great strides in providing CRT, but not critical race theory, culturally responsive teaching. And that means that in our curriculum materials, in our reading materials, students see themselves, that we are being very intentional in our selection of reading and of materials to provide inclusive instruction.
That's not my question.
Wait.
That's not my question.
Okay.
My question was, like the Army found out that soldiers were interested in reading comic books. They found out that soldiers were interested in reading comic books. Not choosing the curriculum for them, but they found out they let the soldiers choose the curriculum. And so they brought up the reading scores of soldiers by letting soldiers read what they were interested in reading.
Yeah.
Not what was chosen for them. So do the students have any input in the choice of what they are learning?
See what you're saying.
I mean, the curriculum has specific books, but that's just one. Then there are alternate books, and the classrooms are all full of books, and they have media center stuff. And I know there are teachers who are using graphic novels. I mean, I've been reading the books that have been challenged by community members, and one of them is Mouse, which is a graphic novel about the Holocaust. So that's actually being used in the curriculum. It's a graphic novel. It's very powerful.
I want to say too that they are using graphic novels. I just happen to know. But a graphic novel, it really is a comic.
That's not my question.
So we don't. Let me go. Winston, and then
Winston, Garrison, Carlinia, and then Rashid. Blanche.
So
my question is for the two incumbents. Ms. Witherspoon, if you could also chime in. I know you have worked with the district for a while. So I'm a first-year CMS parent. My son just started kindergarten, and one thing I haven't seen a lot of were measurables. And I know, since the hot button issue has been the deficiencies in third grade reading, and I know one of the things we wanted to focus on was college and career readiness at the third grade level. So can you tell me, out of the 25 years CMS has had a pre-K program, how many pre-K graduates are scoring at that college and career readiness level?
Well, students don't receive a test that's related to that level 4 or 5 until third grade. That's the first time they receive that standardized test. So there is no state college career ready measure until third grade. There's plenty of monitoring of students on individual skills, but they don't sit down. It's barely age appropriate for the third graders to take the test they take, and it's certainly not age appropriate for a state mandated sit down for several hours, take a paper pencil test for K1, 2.
So how do we know how effective pre-K is?
Because teachers, as professionals, have monitored skills, and whether that skill is, can the child use scissors? Do they know their colors? Can they count to 10? Can they count to 20? Those are the kinds of things that teachers are keeping track of, and they're the professionals that are monitoring that progress.
You can ask your teacher about the standards, what's expected of your pre-K student, what that child should know by the time they leave pre-K. North Carolina's standard course of study, when your kids start getting older, you can look on that site, DPI, and find those standards, and you can gauge yourself. But there are assessments, just like Carol says, they start testing at third grade, but some schools use MAP. And MAP is an assessment, but that still doesn't happen until early, to older, about third grade. So there's a way to assess. But I want to say about CMS pre-K program, the More for 4 program, if that's where your child is in. That's an awesome program. When I was working on doing my principal license, I had an opportunity to travel along with my principal and watch and observe That's a wonderful program. But what I often wonder, and I talk to my principal about this, when you see those kids leave pre-K and all the knowledge they would have, when they came into kindergarten, something happened. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but something happened. Those kids left out of pre-K knowledgeable. I saw it with my own eyes, but sometimes when they got into kindergarten, I don't know what change happened, but that's something we've got to watch and be careful about so that that education that they get on pre-K continues right on. And we're talking about kids of color.
Okay, one of the things that I've noticed with our pre-K students, they go to one school for pre-K and they get to know the school, they get to know the teachers, they get to know the school, how to do school. But then when they get ready to go to kindergarten, they go to a different school. And I think that's one of the things when you observe that something happened. When they go to 1K, 1, 2, 3, 4, when they go to elementary school, they ideally go to the same school, they go with their same friends, they know the same adults. But from pre-K to kindergarten, they don't get that opportunity. And that's one of the issues that I have with how we do pre-K. We assign a kid to a pre-K slot in whatever school has the pre-K slot available. But that's not the school that child is going to go to. And so it makes the child have to do a reset. And I think that's where we lose.
Okay, Garrett. Thank you everyone for being here, and thank all of y'all for being here. This is my issue. I graduated from CMS, went through CMS my whole life. I graduated in 2019. It's 3 years because it's 2022. You can do math. And the problem I have with this in all of CMS is, when are we going to start holding our teachers accountable? Because the problem we have is, you hold the students accountable if they miss school, but teachers can miss 3, 4, 5 weeks. I was told in the 8th grade before I met Dr. Cheryl, who helped me all through high school, literally only her. Oh, we have a test on Monday. Monday comes, I'm getting a letter to say my teacher quit on us. And that was at the beginning of the year. So if teachers are told to do a curriculum that's set by CMS, why are they not following their own curriculum or teaching it how it needs to be taught? Because I'm tired of parents having to call in and come at y'all the wrong way because they're frustrated. Because when you're a parent and you have 3 to 5 kids that are all in CMS, maybe in 3rd, 5th, 6th, 8th, you're not going to have time to help them all with their homework. But if they don't understand it, the way the parent was taught is not the way the student is taught now. So everything that they learn now and the way they've been taught is not going to work. It's not going to work. And then, of course, the reason why students of color especially are getting frustrated, showing out, delaying the class with their disruptions is because they're frustrated. Why? Because they can get the same answer. But the reason is the teacher won't count it because that's not the way I taught you to do it. I'm getting the same answer, showing the same amount of work, but my answer, even if it's the same answer, is not acceptable because that's not the way the teacher taught. There are literal teachers that will not accept students' work because they didn't solve the math problem or read between the lines in a reading question because that's not how they were taught. So, of course, it frustrates the student. And what does the student do? Oh, well, I'm just going to make it hard on the whole class and disrupt every 2 seconds, or just like you said, to your point, with the reading. Nowadays, teachers want to do a read aloud together. Let's all read the certain book that I chose for you. Nobody's interested in that. We went to English classes. So it's simple as that. If you just hold the teachers, if you have to send superintendents the highest order in every CMS school, I promise you, CMS as a system wouldn't be laughed at like we are amongst all the other systems in North Carolina that have been working.
I want to respond to the young man, and I appreciate your honesty and your transparency. And I see your frustration, and I want to speak to it. I think that the biggest thing that we have got to work with within our district is accountability. and a framework. And when I talk about a framework of accountability, I had a professor that says people don't do what you expect, they do what you inspect. And that is so true. We need to have a consistent from the superintendent all the way down to the classroom. There need to be a framework of accountability system that we hold, not even the board. The board needs accountability system. If you say you're going to do something, you need to do what you said you're going to do. And then there need to be a system that we all know what it is, and it's well designed, and that's how we operate.
Okay. I just have to say this because it's in response to this question. And it's a fact that we have people who are in classrooms as teachers who are not teachers. Okay, they are not teachers. I was in a school yesterday and I went to 3 classrooms in a row, and each one of them asked them about their certification, and they said, "Well, I'm a guest teacher." Mm-hmm. These people are high school graduates. Some of them have a degree and whatever, but they are basically high school graduates and they get paid $150 a day with benefits to come in there, and they don't know anything about pedagogy. They don't know anything about how children learn. They are guest teachers. And I saw that, and I see it all over the system. I retired from CMS. I know what teaching is because I was a teacher and I was in curriculum and instruction, and I went into schools, and I tell you, when you have a substitute there for 3 or 4 weeks, that child is not learning the curriculum. So that is, to answer your question, that is what's happening, Jim.
Okay. Go ahead, Steph.
Okay.
So we have our next,
Carlenia is next. She's in family and community service.
So I feel this young man's passion. My son had a revolving door of teachers the entire third grade year. And he was not in one of, he was he had a revolving door teacher. So I think what we have to talk about is one, which is that this is a top-down issue. The administration there has to be leadership on the board as well through the superintendent that's going to take a top-down approach in fixing these errors. Like there are human resources errors, there's guidance errors, there are all of these things that need to be fixed. I can see that as a person who works in large systems as an employment attorney, that we have a top-down issue that starts with the board. So until these processes are fixed, yes, there continue to be revolving door teachers, there continue to be frustrated students. Like we have to take this as a systems approach for correction.
Just keep in mind, we use the word teachers loosely. These people are not teachers. A lot of these people, most of these are not teachers. We're saying teachers, but they're not teachers. But they're standing in front of the staff.
Just really quick to piggyback on what she said. That's that same frustration that you feel. There are teachers, real teachers, that feel that frustration as well. Because as she said, the accountability really is top down. So you have teachers who I feel, in large part, there's some bad apples, but I feel like teachers really want to make a difference. But they're not supported. They don't have the right systems at their schools. They don't have support of the administration. So you create a vicious cycle. So again, ultimately it's the board's job to find a superintendent who can lead top down.
Anyone else want to address that before we move on? We need to move on.
I would like to say that, and I keep pointing that back to one of our schools that went from a F to a C in 2 years. But that didn't happen just because the school board decided to do student outcome focused governance. We gave it to the superintendent gave it to the administration. This year, that is part of the school improvement team plan. Those teachers are now having to be accountable to that system. And that particular principal put that system in place in every classroom. And that's why she got the results that she got.
Okay, Carlenia.
She should be modeling that. We're modeling that.
Carlenia, okay, thank you. And I now have a twofold question on what the young man said and Mary said. We said we were going to have a new superintendent within a year, and my understanding is that we will basically start the search in November once the new board is selected. I would like to know what is the vision for the new superintendent and at least two expectations of what we're looking for. When do you think is the projected date? And we talk about teachers and accountability. Are we recruiting now for next year so we don't run into the problem of having all these guest teachers?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna let the two incumbents answer that question.
Okay.
Okay, you decide.
So the process of looking at what characteristics the community expects in a superintendent will begin in days. It's where that process is starting. There'll be a whole system of interviews with community members, focus groups, surveys, with real intention to make sure that all parts of the community are heard and can express what they value in a superintendent. That work will be done before the new board is seated in December, and that will provide the baseline, the community input part for then the new board to take to a search firm to pursue that. The other thing in terms of teacher hiring, we are always hiring and recruiting, and the teacher shortage is national. This is not a CMS thing. It's not a North Carolina thing. If CMS has a critical shortage of teachers of exceptional children, if we could hire every newly minted exceptional children teacher in North Carolina, we could not fill our vacancies. I mean, we are facing a dire shortage of teachers. The pipeline has dried up. There aren't people entering the teaching profession, and so we are forced to look for people moving in from other professions. Enrollment in colleges of education has dropped by like 30% in the last few years. So that's what we're facing. CMS has an active program to grow our own teachers by providing training and licensure pathways to teachers teaching assistants, secretaries, people who are already in the system, and those are predominantly people of color, to increase, one is get more licensed teachers in our schools, and to increase the number and percent of teachers of color in our system.
Okay, did you want to add anything down to this?
No, she covered most of what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Projected date, now what's that projected date?
Oh, for hiring would be this spring, probably March, April-ish. I mean, it'll take a few months to do a search.
And how are you engaging the community?
We'll start engaging the community in the next week or so with targeted interviews, focus groups, broad surveys, all that kind of stuff. That'll be happening very, very soon.
Okay, our time is really going fast, so we're going to come right here. Remember 30 seconds, and if y'all can make the answer really short and want to specify who you want to answer, that would be great.
Oh, I mean, I guess it's for anybody. Like, if elected, what would you do to like change the curriculum to like better prepare students to deal with like the global world, like with the increase in globalization? How would y'all better prepare students to deal with like the international market and just like interacting with more than just like, I guess, Charlotte community and like better preparing them?
You want to answer that question?
Like, anybody?
Okay. He said preparing students for the international market, not just, I guess, globally.
Okay. One of the things that we're doing to prepare our students for the international world is multi-language schools. We have schools that teach 5 and 6 languages. We have schools that teach 2 languages, so that when they graduate, they will be able to communicate. If you can't communicate with the rest of the world, you're not going to be able to have an effective career in any place other than America. So that's one of the things that we're doing to prepare students for to communicate with the world by learning different languages. You know, when we were in high school, you learned one language. Now our students can come out of CMS, talking several languages if they so choose.
Anyone else want to address that? Anyone else?
So I think that, well, one, you have to make sure that students have the fundamentals. I mean, that you can't compete in, let alone Charlotte globally, if you don't have the fundamentals. 81% of the students that took Math 1 and CMS this past 2020-21 not proficient in math. Math is a universal language.
So what about
It's open.
We don't go back and forth. Okay, it was Blanche was next.
Good morning. I do want to say, Ms. Girl, as far as the superintendent is concerned, they always say we get the input of individuals on the outside, but y'all don't listen to that. But anyway, I just want to throw that out here. Anyway, I have 16 grandchildren that have been through success. And my main concern is that the ones that are already in office, what do you think you're going to be doing different? Why should I even be voting for you? Because I'm not seeing a whole lot from the ones that's in. Now, the ones that's coming in or want to be in, what are you planning on doing different to help us? Because I'm seeing too many D's and F's schools. So I don't understand, why y'all want that seat. Because I don't see what you're doing. Now, trust me, believe, I used to go to those meetings all the time. Okay. Don't get me on false stuff.
That sounds like a closing statement kind of question, and I don't know.
Okay, you know what, and that's a good point. It is a closing statement. We are really coming to the end of our time. I'm gonna let Mary Clynn ask a question because she has not asked a question. And after she asks her question and you answer it, we're gonna have our closing statements and we can address what Blanche said, okay? So that will be the answer to Blanche's question. So, Ms.
Thank
Mayor.
you. It's just been a very interesting discussion. Everybody is informed, I think, around the reading and a lot of this, what's needed. But my question to you is specific to the new superintendent. What, in your opinion, what are the needed credentials and skills for the new superintendent?
Okay, credentials and skills for the new superintendent. And you think you can answer that?
I'll start it off. I think first and foremost, there has to be some demonstrated leadership skills. So that just doesn't mean leading a large organization, but it also means some demonstrated proof of knowing how to hire the right people. But more importantly, because education is a people business, right? That individual needs to have a passion for people, needs to understand and see people for who they are, not the outcome or not the numbers. They need to really understand that people are individuals and individuals have different needs. So again, they need to be able to hire the right people around them. They need to be a leader, and then they also just need to have human skills.
Okay.
And for me, what I would want to see within the superintendent would be, he would need to have the experience working with demographics of districts similar to ours and address some of the needs, or have had the experience of success with outcome data, identifying that he has had that experience. But also it's very important for him to be a point leader. And a point leader is somebody who understands how to surround himself with people who are gifted and qualified to do the necessary work with the necessary skills to do the work. That's huge. And I feel like that person should be also, he or she should also be able to empathize with some of the needs that our teachers are facing, because many teachers want to have flexibility and be able to be creative in their classrooms. So those are huge for me, and understanding what equity and quality looks like across the board.
I guess what I'm looking for in a superintendent, or what I feel my community wants in a superintendent, is someone who has done the job somewhere else and done it successfully and has the data to prove it. Particularly as my seatmate has said, in a school that was not just pristine, but that had the challenges that CMS has, and has the size, has some, you can do a lot in a little country school, but I'm looking for somebody that has done it in a big school, a big district.
Yeah, sure. I'll say, I think we need a superintendent who knows how to promote an effective culture around creating spaces where teachers can teach effectively and where the spaces where they have opportunities for professional growth. Also, superintendent who can manage change, who will do so inclusively with the community. Also, I think he or she needs to be able to manage data. By that, I mean that they need to have the ability to anticipate problems and make the necessary corrections in a timely fashion, waiting to the last minute. And also, I think that we have to have a superintendent who's able to communicate complex concepts to the community and who can translate their vision effectively throughout the whole system.
So, all of these things are absolutely great. Agree with them. I'll just piggyback on that. The number one thing is we're not going to have a great superintendent without a great board. Just keep in mind that the board is the boss of the superintendent. It is not the other way around. So in addition to that, I would like to say, in addition to all these other things, I don't want to take up time with that, is it has to be a superintendent that is not approaching students of color or students that are economically disadvantaged with a deficit mindset. We have too many people that have a deficit approach to these students. Their expectation of them is low, so their outcomes are going to continue to be low if you continue to have that view. That is key. Second thing is they have to be a motivator. They have to be able to motivate the staff. They have to be able to motivate the community. We keep hearing all of this community input. It needs to have this community input, but who's invited to the table? Who's going to motivate the community to be engaged with the school system? So I'll just say those two things. My time is up.
And so now we're going to give each of you a closing statement. And what you say? 1 minute. 1 minute closing statement. Okay. So I'm gonna let you go in whatever order you're gonna go in. Okay. Well, I tell you, let's start with you.
All right. Okay, again, my name is Stephanie Sneed. I am running for School Board District 4. District 4 has failed the furthest out of all the districts. It is last in terms of student performance and outcomes. It failed by 37%. 65% of its schools are D or F rated. It is time for a change. My focus wants to be on is student achievement to make sure that we get the outcomes and there are the equitable approaches to outcome, and support for our teachers and staff. Make sure we have access to mental health for not only students and their families, but that we also take an innovative approach with support for teachers, recruitment and retention, and then we have collaboration that is intergovernmental, that is really with our city, with the county, with businesses, with community partners, parents, students, and other stakeholders. I am an employment attorney, a former trial attorney for Child Protective Services. I've served on the CMS Bond Oversight Committee. I'm a CMS volunteer, a PTA member, immediate past chair of the Black Political Caucus. So appreciate your support. School Board District 4.
1 minute.
Yeah. My name is Michael Watson. Again, I represent District 6. To be very transparent, our district is different from most of the districts here. But I'm here because education is an important value to me. And I understand that to be an inclusive member of the board, I have to see all of the districts. I have to understand all of the challenge. I'm led by data-driven analytics. I believe in public schools. I believe our school system can be a school system of choice if change is made. Again, I've served on several different levels of CMS. From a parent level, I've participated in SLTs and things of that nature. But more importantly, I have a passion for education. I know we can make a change. I need all the support I can get to being in District 6. There's not many that look like me out there, so I need support. So I thank you.
Sure. I think a lot of incumbents are going to be asking for more time, but the proof is in the pudding. They failed, Black students in particular, with student achievement. They've been on board for several years. They've hired multiple superintendents. You need new folks to get this right this time. They've had every opportunity. Let's get it right this time in November. they've been focused on everything else except student achievement. What difference will I make? I'll be laser focused on student achievement for all students. Thank you so much. My name is Monty Witherspoon, candidate for School Board District 2, and ask for your support and your vote.
Thank you. I'm Selma Byers Bailey. I've been on the school board for 9 years. I have accomplished a lot in this community. I am community driven. I'm a founding members of the Westside Education Think Tank, now called this in community, whatever. But anyway, I have been focused on the community having a voice in our schools. I think we too often, the school system has decided we are the system, you all take what we said, we know we're the experts. The community is the expert. We need communities in our schools. I believe in CMS. I have grandchildren that were in California that had failing experiences in school. I had them move here to Charlotte so that they could attend schools here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they both graduated from high school and are off doing successful things. CMS can get this right. We've got the student outcome focused governance work in place. It will work.
Thank you.
She was.
Selma, what district? You didn't write it.
Oh, I'm sorry. District 2. I'm sorry.
Hopefully you know who I am by now, Claire Witherspoon. I am, of course, also running for District 4. My platform is equity and equality for all students. I hugely believe in the MTSS framework, so I will be pushing that because I know that is the catalyst for change. I'm huge when we talk about accountability framework for everybody that works in the district and has an opportunity to put their hands on children. And when I say children, I mean all children. For every child deserves a quality education coming from this district. And I agree, CMS can be a good place for kids to be educated. It can be a place where we can be proud to send our kids. I also want to say that I am committed to this. I'm committed to Charlotte. I'm committed to the work. And if elected in this role, I plan to be accessible to the people who put me in office.
Thank you. I'm Carol Sawyer. I'm running for re-election to Board of Education District 4. I fundamentally believe that all children deserve a rich educational experience that includes traditional academics and the arts and will enrich their lives going forward. I believe that the work that the board is doing now is laser focused on student outcomes, and I invite you all to watch the next board meeting where we will be doing a deep dive into the Math 1 scores in high school. So please tune in because you will see the work of the board in action at that meeting. I have been committed to improving equity in CMS through policy work, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay, I want to thank each one of you for coming. Let's give them a hand. Thank you for your passion in this area that you want to be on the street. So thank you for being on for those that have answered my question. But that was it. That was it. I used it as a closing statement. Oh, okay. You know, why should we vote for you? That's what her question was. Right. And
I have time for another meeting. I apologize.
Okay. So we're gonna. Some of you told me you have appointments after this, so I'm gonna say thank you for coming, and you can be dismissed. I don't mean. Nice to meet you.